This is a great image for the beginning of our stream here. Shout outs to B-Rex for the idea. Someone was too busy to throw it into Midjourney or whatever. Let's see. What am I looking for here? I forgot. Oh yeah. Let's copy the restream topic. Or we'll do it over here. Get some music going. Get the vibe up. Uh, I've finally started dicking around with Rust, and it's an interesting experience so far. It very much reminds me of C in a lot of ways, in that you have to be very careful about the syntax, but at the same time, there's a lot of hope for actually being able to safely write programs in a way that we can hopefully avoid some major pitfalls. That said, it is a bit extraneous in implementation of certain things, but I think this is partially just me having to get used to the syntax. Certain things about Go and Rust put me off syntactically for a long time, and that kept me from actually sitting down to write code in it. But with the help of ChatGPT and Copilot, today hopefully we can get something kind of interesting really going here. So sit back, relax. It's Evil Dojo time. Let's see.
December 21st, Infinite Novelty. Crafting up codes, defining my reality. Never gonna finish writing, that is how my novel be. Action reaction, just a lot of causality. Infinite Novelty, December 21st. The start is the end, and the last is the first. You might catch me traveling through the past. It's a blast. I get nasty. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. I get nasty. I get nasty.
I'm theoretical like tachyon particles. I hit you with diamonds and leave you in sparkles. I'm a demon, I cackles. I'm gonna leave you in shackles. You can't play with my Tetris, you got nothing to stack with. You ain't playing no games, you just high on craft wits. I ain't got time for fly subs, set up traps. You call yourself a runner, but you ain't running
They say
no laps.
life is the lesson, so don't let 'em make it a teacher. But there's no way I'm a student when I'm really a preacher. I'm boosting up my signal, so my sound will reach you. From the top of your attic to the ground beneath you. In life after death, there might be no conquest. The challenge is now. There's no avoiding this test. In life after death, there might be no conquest. The challenge is now. There's no avoiding this test. I need some more time to write the rest of this story. I'll spare you the details. The process is boring.
If you can't code, your brain is going to explode, rot, corrode, erode, overload, like an electrode. Your whole mind explodes. That's been walking on how many years now on death row? All because you think it would be weird to command your console. So post mortem, your family, I will console. Shortly before I devour they soul, and they brains and bodies I now's control because everyone's got that missing hole.
Shoutouts to all the chatters. Shoutouts to Zartet for laying it down on the circuit. Shoutouts to B-Rex for hacking my shit up, fam. This is LRH Animal Type Rap Beat number 1. Here's the down dirty on some funky animal chatters. They hang out in the channel run by a dungeon master. Don't come with hate. You just might wake a raptor when packets hit your system. You'll be timed out after. Are you flying high like a fruit bat? Chill pussy like a cat or snitching like a rat? Apex Redditors adding subnets to their hit list. Beds in the chat. Strictly funny, no business. IRC. It's a fucking zoo. Humans chatting lines like monkeys flinging poo. Put your hands on the keyboard, you know what to do. I wonder what kind of animal is inside of you. Motherfucking C. Get stung by a jellyfish, bust out your beak, claw out your eyes so that you cannot even see how chatting online has animalized me. Networks like anemones. All species come together for some nasty. Can flood DDoS, so they talk shit real nasty. My beats are 0 days, so you know I come out blasting. Dark Mage crab game, do not get him started. Big Bear B-Rex freaking with the Zartet. Don't treat him down, hard venom make you darted. Haters so bad, all bitches seem parted. IRC, it's a fucking zoo. Humans chatting lines like monkeys swinging poo. Put your hands on the keyboard, you know what to do. I wonder what kind of animal is inside of you. Motherfucking C. Get stung by a jellyfish, bust out your pee, claw out your eyes so that you cannot even see how chatting online has animalized me. Word. Pick up my audio, damn it. There we are. The noise filtering on this is suboptimal. Like, I almost feel like I have to talk a little bit extra loud in order for it to pick up my voice when I use it. The problem is, without it, it sounds like trash. See, here's what it sounds like without noise suppression. See, it sounds like I'm in a fucking underwater lab surrounded by machines like I'm in a server room. Ain't nobody want to listen to that shit. I'm trying to optimize here. I want y'all to actually like this shit because I like doing it. I've got a great setup now. I've got 2 monitors going, and even still, for the quality of the font, I figured out, like, if I'm not resizing my canvas, you can actually get some good quality font here, so you can actually see what the fuck I'm typing, and it looks kind of HD on stream. So I'm trying, man. I'm really trying here. Let's get this shit fucking popping. Let's get some real coding going. I'm tired of bug bounties. I'm tired of not learning new shit. We gotta take it back to old school, to the way I grew up learning how to program. Bashing your face into the keyboard until you have nothing but a bloody stump of a head left, and you just pass out and die forever. The end. And you do that repeatedly for 28 years, and then you become me. That's how it's done. Why have I not made the big money yet? And that's probably because I haven't gotten or stuck with any one location for long enough. And I say stuck around, as rather I have not been kept at one location long enough to see that kind of return. That doesn't mean I'm not experienced. That doesn't mean I don't have background. That doesn't mean that I haven't tutored hundreds of students, even in languages that I don't even fucking know. I mean, I can't sit down to a brand new language I've never touched and start learning new things. There's justification behind why, though, and when you have this critical understanding as to what you're able to do in a language easily versus other languages, or rather get used to the patterns for how to write things. And when you start thinking in terms of what you want to do rather than hyper-focusing on the syntax of the language itself, it becomes much easier to identify your own misunderstandings in a language's syntax, as well as improve your own ability to write code in the future, as well as debug it. Because most of my students understand programming as a concept much more easily than they do the syntax for writing instructions, right? And for most of my students, like all of them actually, not a one of them has had the opportunity to utilize tools such as Copilot or ChatGPT. Like, most of my programming with all of my programming with students has been outside of the context of tools like Copilot and ChatGPT. So this is important because you can't rely upon ChatGPT and Copilot to get things correct all the time. You have to verify the output before you actually commit to trying. I mean, when I say verify, I mean eyeball the code, do a code review, throw it into whatever project it is that you're working on or a new file or whatever, and try to compile it. Easiest way to see if something works is just try to compile and run it. This is also dangerous from a certain perspective. So be absolutely sure that you know what it is that you're running before you try to run it. There's a pattern in a lot of modern development websites where they just have you copy paste some line of code that has you like curl some web script and then like throw it immediately into SH without ever getting a chance to vet or verify what it is that you're actually running. I think this is just a bad practice, a bad trend in general. Man, I'm still waiting on a fucking bug bounty response. These people must be on fucking Christmas break or some shit. They said they would be able to verify that shit Monday of last week, and they still haven't yet. So you could continue hunting. You could do, whatever the fuck you want during this time. I've played around with a little bit of Go recently, and now it's time to play around with Rust. So the Go programs I wrote, one of them hunts for working SOCKS 5 proxies. Like, you feed a list of proxies in the form of IP addresses, ports, and then it spits back the proxies in the list that it hits that were successful. You know you're successful because we're hitting Google, and then you get a 200 response back if it works. If it doesn't work, typically the connection times out or errors out because it's either not a valid proxy, the port's not open, or something of that nature. The other Go program I wrote does something similar. It spams input websites with requests, but it modifies the host header because it's specifically looking for servers that ping back to another server if you feed it an alternative host header, which typically browsers don't allow you to change the host header when you're making a request, which is why doing this from the command line is so important, because it's a vulnerability that exists outside of the typical scope of a web browser. Like, yeah, sure, you could intercept a request with burp, modify it there, or have some sort of reverse or middleman proxy that like changes the host header that way, but ultimately in the end you just manually do it. Those are the two tools I wrote in Go. Today it's taking me 15 minutes to explain why Rust and IRC. Why a bot and IRC? Well, one, the IRC framework, the standard is very interesting. It's an incredibly simple communications protocol, yet very robust in that, especially with the way that servers are supposed to be implemented, allows for a very large extensibility to creating some sort of network. I know there's vulnerabilities, I know there's limitations, but in the end it's a very interesting kind of setup. It's more interesting than any of the other forms of social media because of the variety of different clients that can connect to IRC servers. And this includes arbitrary programs that we can write ourselves. Someone can manually connect to an IRC server using something like Netcat. Let's connect to Supernets. I don't even think they have a 6667 open. I would wholly expect this to error out. Nope, there we go. So we get a response back from the server to indicate that we are actually connected now, and we can receive and start passing back and forth plain text messages. Naturally, doing it this way can be very tedious. I'm certain that someone could hack together a really disgusting like bash or ZSH script to actually perform the functions of an IRC client or bot. But typically speaking, what people have traditionally done is written entire programs to represent state for when you're connected to a server, because one of the things that you can do once you connect to a server is start joining channels. You have all of these different channels that may or may not exist, and you can also create your own channels. If a channel doesn't exist when you join it, it gets created and you become the effective creator and operator of that channel. So it's interesting. So keeping track of like which channels you've joined is clearly a process itself, right? Like you can keep track of which channels you've joined, and then once you've joined a channel, you get a list back of all the different users in that channel, right? So you see that we have a list of channels, and for each channel that we're actually connected to, a list of users. And while you're in a channel, users may join and they may leave, and if you wanted to keep track of this, you have to effectively update your own lists. I haven't done this yet myself, but it's what's on the immediate horizon in terms of like next steps in the implementation of this thing. So it's not very robust at the moment. What I've got here is super primitive. And let's take a look at it, because this is a good opportunity to start talking about how to write Rust, how functions kind of should be handled, what you end up actually doing when you're writing code, and go from there. Keep in mind, I've been using Rust like less than a week, and I've only glanced at it on and off in 5-minute intervals every so often over the course of the last couple of years, right? I've been aware of it since like 2014. And I haven't had an immediate utility. And I still technically don't need to learn this. But for sake of staying on top of tech, getting myself back into the game, and getting my brain engaged with learning something new, I've chosen to do Rust and an IRC bot. To begin with, our use statements are very similar to like using in C++, as well as like include. So we can actually pull specific objects or methods from specific libraries very easily. And we're really not doing a whole lot here. Where possible, we prefer to use native data structures and native library functions without having to like go out there and look for some random library that we have to pull in. I have not yet gotten to the point of splitting my code into multiple files yet. And that's also a target for just learnings, so that, my projects can be better organized, because that's a typical good pattern, is that if you have a large program, you want to split things up into multiple files. This seems obvious to anyone who's actually an experienced developer or anyone who's been writing code for a long time. But it is something to be iterated and repeated for those who happen to be new. A lot of my audience, a lot of my students and clients are not necessarily experienced themselves, or they learned enough about programming to be dangerous and have to step back and take a look at their preconceptions and presumptions along the way. Always be examining your preconceptions, your first premises, your basis of knowledge. So we have a very primitive function here called sendMessage, and it does something very simple. It simply writes a message as bytes. It prints the message to our screen, and then it returns OK. A lot of the functions prefer that we actually return things as results, and I might even be able to rewrite this code so that instead of having to make a reference to the result in this way, I can actually use std:/io:/ result, and then I should be able to get rid of this, and this is going to end up looking a lot cleaner. Let's test compiling this, all right? We'll continue going through the rest of the code, but because I'm old school and I don't like typing, big ass long new commands and shit, I often create like a script or some other way to quickly type something that will allow me to just very easily, boom, done. You might say, oh, it's only 5 extra characters, but the line of thinking that I've held this entire time is, and especially in the beginning days when I was really first getting going with like Java in high school, I did not conform to my teacher's demands of proper variable naming. And this bites you in the ass later, but in certain contexts, if you're just really trying to get something quick and, stuff, every single keystroke counts. Absolutely. If you're just like trying to speed code, if you're trying to like code golf, minimize even the level of effort that you're throwing out there. So instead of having to type cargo build, I just type make, and it builds fine. So that was actually a good change that I just made. It ends up with somewhat cleaner code. Next function, handle ping. This is necessary because IRC has a mechanism where to check to see if a client is still alive or not, and also to help prevent abuse and bots, which this doesn't really do much nowadays, but you get a ping message from the server with some series of random characters after it to like identify the ping itself. And in order to stay connected, the client must send back a corresponding Pong message. So what we're doing here is we're receiving a string as a parameter called S, and a stream called stream, a TCP stream called stream. This represents the connection itself to the server. So one thing that we would do is receive the ping from the server, and then we split that on the string's ping so that the first half of the string contains this content, and then the last part of the string contains the unique identifier. So we take that identifier and then we format it into a new message that starts with all caps Pong, followed by a colon, and then the identifier of the ping that we received. And then we call the previous function send message, one that we just wrote up here, and we pass in both the stream as well as the reference to the message itself. The question mark at the end of certain statements confused me a bit until I understand what it was doing. So if a function returns a value and you just don't care about that value, you can throw that value away by throwing a question mark before the semicolon. I'm not sure what the correct way to interpret this is, but in dabbling with actually getting the code compiling and running, this turns out actually necessary. The return OK is equivalent to, like in C, returning 0, which is the traditional success value that you would return to the operating system to let it know that the command was successful. In a traditional C program, what you should do if you intend to error out in a program is set the error no to indicate like what type of error you actually like are handling, and then return your error in the operating system so that way you can actually get information from the operating system about what the error was. A lot of the C like standard IO functions, for instance, do this. Or like for instance, if you try to like f open a file and you get null as a pointer back, that indicates that there was some sort of error that you can actually check for by taking a look at error no and seeing what the error actually was, whether or not it was file not found or corrupt file or some other problem on disk. So the meat of the bot at the moment is in the function handle line, which takes a string called S and a TCP stream called stream. we start off by printing some brackets with the message that we received. So we're getting a bunch of lines back from the server once we're connected, right? So let's go to our main. We get our arguments from the command line, and then we go ahead and set what they actually are by creating variables and pointing to them. Let server equal arg1, nick equal arg2, and channel equal arg3. If server is empty, in other words, the user messed up when typing it, and actually we could start refactoring a little bit by check server so we do now we could just call check server, and that would do the same thing. To make sure that change works, we compile and just keep going. We also want to check nick. And we also want to actually we want to call these check arg. Let me make sure that we actually got channel in there. So once we've checked those, we create some messages to connect to the server. So we have a nick message, a user message, and a join message. So upon connecting to the server, these are the first 3 things that we want to send to identify ourselves to the server and allow us to join the channel. Down here we have our main loop, which reads from the server and does stuff. So we're going to clean up this main a bit. The code is kind of like largely shoved in, so I think we can actually use send MSG for this. And then we should have like a handle method, which would actually like process lines or handle lines. We need like a read from server loop or a something. Well, let's see where we're at. Let's not over optimize. Okay, so as an example of how to run this, if you try to run it and you don't give it any correct arguments, it starts yelling at you, right? So I'm going to go ahead and connect to irc.nordnet.sc6667, which is a FNet server. We're going to use the Nick Rustmage, and we're going to use Pound Evil Dojo as our channel, which is my channel. One thing that I want to do is be able to like generate colored text, right? All right, so we got GPT 3.5 loaded up with my coder template. I want to print colors on the terminal in Rust using old school C ANSI escape sequences. But last time I tried this with basic print, I believe I got the actual characters of the sequence itself instead of the expected colored output. Oh, I gotta use /x. So print line will actually is a macro too. So so they're saying slash or 0x1 or /x1b. Let's try that. Okay, it works. The problem here too is it's printing an extra new line. Okay, no, the ChatGPT was not correct in saying it had to be print line. All right, so instead of printing brackets around a handle line, we're going to print out our server messages that way. Okay, that's a lot nicer looking. is when we actually get the channel name, we want to like set this as global, because eventually we're going to start like storing a list of channels that you're connected to, followed by, you know, all the users and whatnot. So to start with, we want to be able to make a global variable. So we can actually create a new mutable string this way. It's going to yell at us that we're not using it yet. Also, we can't use let up there, apparently. Yeah. Yeah. Oof, heavy duty times over at Evil Dojo. Okay, so we can't declare it mutable, or can we? See, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. Um, static my string. Colon ampersand str. It wants me to make it uppercase. It does not like that. Borrowed data escapes outside of function. Maybe I'm gonna have. Oh, man. Um, it almost might be easier to create like a vector of like a channel vector. Maybe there's a way for us to avoid being needing a global variable here. I mean, if we got all of that info, like, I mean, we have the channel name here. So like, we get info about the channel that is responding to us, but we want to be able to keep track, like a running track of it, because we might like later decide to, for instance, join a second channel. I'm going to turn my heater off. So for instance, up in handle line, we're going to be getting certain messages, right? What did this split on? Oh, this grabbed the last. Okay. Let's see. Where are we gonna store? all the users, right? This goes back to that vector of strings. Um, if this were all inside of the main, we could just have like a object in main that we could reference. It's not very good for long-term maintenance, though. So instead of handle line, we're just gonna move the logic for handle line directly into there. I know this is a bad idea. So we can handle the ping without needing any sort of additional information. So alright, let's try this out. It should yell at us a little bit. Okay, so we're actually going to have to manually add each user. Print the users from the user list for user and users. Okay. Oof. Buff does not live long enough. It was dropped while still being borrowed. Consider iterating over a slice of the vector's content to avoid moving into the for loop. Oh, whoops. Forgot to turn that back. Uh-oh. Let's remove the scope so that Y isn't dropped. The Y isn't dropped until after the print line. Oh. Line. Buff dropped while still being borrowed. Let's start with buff. But that doesn't fix it. Wait, no, they say it's never red, which is not true. You're not assigned the buff because it is borrowed. Same problem with buff copy. That doesn't fix it. Fuck. Mismatch types. All right. Okay, it built, but okay, it builds at the moment, but we would really like to be able to access okay, that built. So down here, oh, because we're doing all of this stuff, right? It's not a hard split. Okay, that built. That's a good sign. It's probably because the user goes out of scope when we actually try to add it to our user list, right? That's when shit goes wrong. So really we want to create and push like a new copy but it would go out of scope, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but see, this don't work. Because borrowed value doesn't live long enough. Because users is ultimately split off of line, and when line goes out of scope, once it like gets to the end of the loop, the reference to the user in that line disappears. But we don't want to keep track of a reference of strings Can we specify a size on new? Asking all the right questions here. What's the difference between STR and string? Strings are so STRs are string slices, and they're immutable, and it's to a reference rather than like a whole string. Okay, that makes sense. So instead of a vector of STRs, I'm going to create a new vector of strings. Okay, that works. Finally. Oh, Christ almighty. That was an important lesson in the whole borrowing principle, because if you didn't understand that STRs are, by definition, immutable references, then it would be hard to have caught, and it was very hard to catch that error. I just taught myself something new, and I hope y'all learn too. Check it out. So let's make sure we can actually print them out. Oh, it errored out. Uh-oh. Originally this was S. So handle ping should correctly do that. Oh, we print the server line right here. Oh, we're sending a reference to... to the line. Uh-oh. It is not sending the right Pong message back at all. We had this working, damn it. hang around long enough for us to see that the ping pong is working. I still don't think it is. Okay, so we can see private message come in from me, which is cool. We should start seeing some pongs and ping pongs any minute. Forget how often you have to deal with these messages. Might be a moment. Good thing this is going on during the ad time. There we are. See, we got our pong, we got our ping pong. We're doing it right. So we're currently only handling one channel, right? So if we want to actually start maintaining like a list of channels, do we actually echo the output of split? Yeah, we do. Okay. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So when we received the 332 message, I'm going to delete all this old code. Hold on. So when we get the can we access the iterators using array syntax? Web Wizard trying to call in the middle of the show. Jesus Christ. He said he would check in an hour, which was over an hour ago, if I was still streaming, which I am. But I'm not about to interrupt my progress here to take calls. Sorry. We'll do a call-in part of the show in the future. I said shut the fuck up. Stop calling me. I'm working. Wow, I can't even turn off my notifications even with volume on mute. I have to fucking start smashing that shit. Okay, so we can actually do .inth. Okay. Let's try that. What was it, the 4th? Split 0. Borrow as mutable. Damn. Oh. Alright, fine. We'll do it that way. Okay. Wow. Wait, did I forget to turn the filter back? I did. This shit has been blaring nonstop, so y'all are constantly hearing me sound like I'm in a underwater sea cage surrounded by machines. Oh, it's actually the 6th. The 6th one. Oh, wait. Something ain't right there. Oh, there it is. There it is. I want yellow here. Now, whenever someone joins and leaves, we'd want to update the user list, right? So that's where the handling of each one of these different sections comes from. It's a bunch of different error codes that we're going to have to figure out and handle over time. I don't even think we need S here. String dot split. Oops. We do need it. We probably more cleanly handle the ping handling. So whenever someone leaves, we would have to update the user list, and whenever someone joins, we'd have to update the user list. Freya Adeline, hi, nice name. I'm doing okay. How are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Just making a bot for IRC in the Rust programming language. Glad to hear it. I hope you're having a great day. Good weather outside, or spending it indoors programming. I'll be probably taking a break here in a little bit to stand up and stretch, maybe catch a stroll in. I haven't gotten a good walk in a long time. The channel name's not correct yet. It's actually parsing it incorrectly in 2 locations. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one should be 4. And then this one's not quite right. What we should do is do line.split, and then from there That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth one. So let channel name equals split 0 dot int 5 dot unwrap. Uh-oh. Well, I've been doing it a long time, Freya. I've been programming my entire life, basically. As I was explaining earlier, we'll be coming up on year 28. And it's time I learn a new programming language. So I've chosen Rust. Oh, we were one off. 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it is number 4. All right. I do play games. As you take a look on my channel homepage, you'll see most recently I put some time into Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for the Nintendo Switch. I never got to play it back when it was brand new on the PlayStation 2, because I was beginning of college for me and I was very busy. Oops. But San Andreas is a fantastic game. Highly recommend. I also put some time into Stardew Valley. One of my goals is to actually complete the full 3-year campaign. It might be time to actually start putting time back into some good old RPGs too. Okay, good. We actually are correctly grabbing the channel name now, as we can see. So that means we're correctly parsing this message. Oh, snap. We got a fucking Chan fix? Damn. I must have gotten hit pretty hard. That's what happens when I'm not paying attention. Shoutouts to Blowfish. He's been asking for advice every so often. I don't know why from me. Apparently I know something. I never got anywhere in this industry by acting like I knew anything. It's not an act. Whatever I do know, I know. I also know I don't know a lot of stuff, but that's how I know things. And that's how I learn things, by asking questions, making a presumption about how something works, and then validating it, or what's the opposite of validate? Invalidate. Like, so the obvious next step here, now that we're actually keeping track of, let's see. So we have a join message here. Chanfix briefly joined long enough. Long enough for us to see the join message and the part message. So whenever we receive a join and a part message, we're going to want to update the user list, right? So Look, if you're here to advertise your services, I'm not interested. I had a bad experience with someone coming at me and on Twitter to advertise art services, and I actually have a custom overlay. I just made it earlier today. Check it out. This is a AI generated image through Bing's image creation service. I don't need like crazy fancy overlays. I don't need a whole lot of crazy stuff like that. At most, I could use painting my walls to be like a bright green color and actually do proper illumination so that I could do a good chroma key overlay. That way I can just be like a floating head on top of my computer stuff. But people be joining random low viewer count Twitch chats in order to try and sell their services and stuff, and this seems kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, don't you think? I would think that if someone needs overlays, that they would go to somewhere to make them, if not make them themselves, if they decided that they actually need them. This is a low-tech channel. Like, part of the whole appeal and aesthetic is how simple we can make things. The rig I'm streaming on is not particularly powerful. It's just a quad core with 16 gigs of RAM and onboard graphics. It doesn't have a GPU or anything like that. So, and even then, like, the development that I'm doing is actually on another box, and all the testing is happening over there too. While this is not particularly a huge resource-intensive program, I like the separation of components so that I can be pretty sure that I'm doing my best to optimize for the hardware that I have available. Like, if I had a lot more hardware, I'd be able to just shove tons of crazy shit out through the stream. But I don't need a whole lot of crazy shit. I don't need a whole lot of fancy customization. And anything that I do decide that I want or need, I can make myself. And more often than not, when I do that, it's kind of like a spur of the moment artistic inspiration to try out something and see if it works. Rather than any sort of like the most well thought part of my whole design process. For instance, the basic Evil Dojo logo at Evil Dojo 666 is just to use a particular shade of gray, pound 666 666, because obviously the number 6 is also kind of a nice looking shade of gray in general. It sits nicely on top of a black background, and I can do something like this where I just move it over into the box right here so everyone knows who's streaming when it's on. Not that you didn't already know if you weren't already at my channel. I'm doing my best. My YouTube, my Twitch, and my Twitter all now have the same name, at Evil Dojo 666. So anyone who wants to find me can do so through my website, or they can just go to one of the social medias at that location. Very straightforward. That's how we like it here. We don't want to beat around the bush. All this tech shit takes a long time to begin with, so. It is 4:20. We've been live almost 2 hours. We've gotten some stuff done. We're processing the user list now correctly. We learned something about borrowed lifetimes and the difference between str and string. And this was ultimately a productive programming session. We've gotten a bit more of a hold on how Rust works. While this code needs to be heavily tweaked, we can get back to moving things into functions and stuff, so that we can, or so long as we do it in a very incremental procedural way, so that we don't break too much, because Jesus Christ, the error message spam output is just as traumatizing as it was in my early C++ days. The error messages in C++ can be so off-putting as to want to direct you all the way back to C, where you have a bit more ability to easily debug and read. I say easily, but assuming that your C++ is not using anything too crazy. This is a good beginning. This is the right direction. We're learning. We're learning together. So, if you enjoyed this broadcast, whatever fuck, we're calling this shit programming session. Like and subscribe. Sign up for Twitch Prime. Throw me your money. If you have any particular content that you'd like to see, reach out to me on IRC or Twitter. Of course, hit up the website, www.evildojo.com, and we'll go from there. Not sure what else I'm going to be doing today, but I'm going to definitely get some food. Hungry as a motherfucker. That's how I like it. You know, I do my best work just before eating. A little bit edgy, a little bit caffeinated. Ready to go. So, we'll get back to this bot stuff as I make some progress on it. Try and make some more planned streams where we're actually doing more stuff. I want to make more videos also. I find that while I may not have necessarily a lot of time to plan out a stream, I do have enough time to make video content. So if there's any particular tech topics that you'd like me to cover, or anything of that nature, then by all means, hit me up. Peace, everyone. Have a good day.